So we looked at branching. That's one of the two sorts of arrows in the quiver of any kind of programmer. But if you had a computer program or a robot that made peanut butter jelly sandwiches, it would really suck if it could only make one. One of the advantages of this is, just like when you create a macro in other systems, which is a kind of a program, is that you can run it over and over and over again, and it doesn't get tired. And so one of the other control structures for programming, and this is all programming, is the loop. You do lots and lots of loops. You do things over and over again. So there's loops and branches are what makes up programming. Being able to make decisions according to certain conditions and being able to loop back and do something over and over again. So let's do a very basic loop here. There are, in most programming languages, there's certainly exceptions to this, but in most programming, at least procedural or functional programming languages, there are three types of loops: the for loop, the while loop, and the do until loop. We're going to look at only just one of these, the while loop, for now. First of all, I want to note that I've taken that site that we were working on, the index.php, and reorganized things a bit, and did it in a way that we normally do. Now remember that we've split it so that it presents two pages, either the form or the content as a result of the form. But there's no reason we have to repeat all of this kind of boilerplate. So in this case, I start with the boilerplate because that's going to be the same no matter what page we create. And I end with the boilerplate, close body, close HTML, because really that's going to be the same on every page. And this is pretty common for creating PHP pages. You're probably going to have the same boilerplate. In fact, you might bring this in as an include. And then the same ending part, you might bring this in as a footer or an include. But we do that, and then the meat of it, the part that's inside the body, we either put down the programmatic part, the part that the program's creating, or the form. So let's start with the form, since that's what you'll get if you haven't submitted a form yet. And in this case, I brought it back down to the bare minimum by asking for a maximum. So you go to the form, and it asks for maximum, and it puts that into go until is the name that we're using for that. Then when it gets to the form, it brings that out as max. It brings that into go until. Note that this is a string, but PHP is very forgiving. What we really need is not a string, but a number, an integer. But that's okay. We're gonna in most programming languages this would break because we're going to use it as a number even though it's a string. But for PHP, it's very forgiving. It doesn't require you to do a lot of kind of that difficult piece, and so we're going to be okay just kind of using it as a string for now. Echo 0. What does this do? It just puts a 0 out on the page. It sets a new variable x equal to 1. So we put 1 into the variable x. Now, while, and then I have a condition. The while statement is a lot like if, right? You say while something or other, do the stuff inside the curly brackets. So we've got while this condition is true, do this, and if this were an if statement, it would just do it once, but then it goes back and checks again to see if the condition is true. Okay? So we say while x is less than or equal to the maximum number. Now remember, the maximum number is the one we get from the form, and x starts with 1, so the first time we're through, let's just say that someone has entered a 5 up here. The first time we have x is equal to 1 and max is going to be 5. So it says, okay, this is true, so I'm going to do what follows. We're going to echo, that means print to the screen, a comma. We're going to echo x, and in this case it's 1. And then we're going to set x equal to x plus 1. Now this is a little confusing because really what we're saying is set new x to old x plus 1. But the computer knows that's what we mean. It's fine. So this means that the new x is going to be the old x, 1 plus 1. So the new x is 2. Now here, unlike if, it goes right back up to the beginning of the while statement and it checks this again to see if it's true. Is 2 less than 5? And if it is, then we continue on and we print another comma. And we echo the 2. And then we set x equals 3. And then it goes up here and it says, is 3 less than or equal to 5? Yes, so it does another comma, it prints the 3, and it sets x equal to 4. and then it does it again, and it sets x equal to 5. And then it does it again. Now x is 6, and it says, is 6 less than 5? No, so it finishes. So let's drag up index.php. I don't know what's up there now, but we'll overwrite it. All right, and then let's go ahead and open that up in a browser. And we'll put in, like I said, the maximum of 5. And so this is what it prints out. Each time it goes through the loop, it puts out a comma and a number. A comma and a number, a comma and a number. So if I put 5 in there, it does that. If I put 500 in there, it does that. So it just keeps going. And I could do 5,000, and it does that. And if I do 50,000, it takes a little longer, and it does that. And I could keep going, but if I made that number large enough, I could cause real problems for our server. So this is a basic program that runs accounting. We could make this more complicated, and don't worry if you can't quite follow along on this. I'm going to do something called the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci numbers are particularly important to lots of natural systems and actually to cryptography and a number of other things. And what the Fibonacci sequence is f of n is f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2. So, for example, you start with 0 and 1, and then you add those up and you get 1, and you add these two up and you get 2, and then you add these two up and you get 3, and then you add 2 and 3 and you get 5, and 3 and 5 you get 8, etc., 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 and it keeps going bigger and bigger. And so one of the basic things that you're asked to do in a lot of computer science types of or initial programming courses is to create a program that is able to run the Fibonacci sequence. So we know that x is going to be 0 in this case. That's going to be the n minus 1 is going to be 0, n minus 2 is going to be 0. And we know that y is equal to 1 because we have it right up there. So we've already printed those two. This is n minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 1. And what we're going to say is, again, let's say while x plus y, and just to make it clear, we're going to put that in parentheses, so we want it to add it up. While x plus y is less than max, we want to do the following. We still want to echo a comma. We're going to create a new sum, and the new sum is x plus y. And then we're going to echo that new sum, and then we're going to say that we have two numbers we have to update. We're going to update and say that now the new x is actually equal to y. Basically, we're going to move that up and say that n minus 2 is now n minus 1, and the new y is equal to the new sum. This is the only tricky part, and if you think this through, you'll understand. So what we've done is we said x plus y is 1 in this case. So we've said that we have a new number 1, and we're going to set the new x to y, which means the new x is 1, and the new y to 1. And it'll run through this again, and it will continue to do that addition. So let's try that and see if it actually works. File, save. We'll update it again. Overwrite. Oops. And we don't want to go that high. Let's just say 500. And there's the Fibonacci sequence, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So we can do lots of things like that where we kind of look at sequences, and this is the sort of things we expect computers to be good at, but only if the programmers are good enough to actually add in the program to make it work.